Okay, hi. I think I have a bit of a technical issue with my collab, but I'm live on Facebook, and so we're going to go with Facebook. And I don't see collab coming up, and I'm not going to fight it any longer. I'm just going to have a conversation with you. Um, Seems like also same status for um, YouTube. So, um, I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to go with chatting with whoever's on today about what is a sales funnel? How do you define a sales funnel? Helps you determine how to sell a sales funnel, but from the company who's executing a sales funnel, knowing what it is that they're doing is critical. And if you're trying to sell sales funnels, it's important that you understand the terminology that the customer sees, how the customer views it, because you might actually be selling something they need, but you're using a jargon term, an industry specific term that makes sense to you but doesn't make sense to them. Okay, so I'm gonna just vamp just a little bit here while I see if I get traction coming in. Yeah, so there's my, yeah, so that's working. My ability to see myself. Make sure to mute this so that I don't get feedback. Mute that as well. Okay, so I had a conversation last week with a company and I said, so what does your sales funnel look like? And they kind of looked at me like, I don't even know what you mean by that term. And after we talked for a bit, they said they agreed that what they have is in fact a sales funnel. It is the process that someone goes from not knowing about their company to deciding that their company is the right solution for them. And I see this issue in marketing Facebook groups a lot. And the way it often is worded is, does every small business need a sales funnel? And there are some people who are saying, no, there's a small enough level that if you're this small of a business, you don't need a sales funnel because you're not looking to scale. And then there's others who are saying, well, if you're a really big business, you don't have a sales funnel because you have marketing or whatever the reason that, and it's like, I think they're missing the point. I'm going to check my audio here just a second. I think they're missing a point when they define whether a company needs a sales funnel based on size of the company, because they're missing the point of what a sales funnel actually is. So what I want to emphasize right now, and I'm checking my audio, I don't have anybody that I'm seeing live yet. Okay. I'm hearing audio, so I'm going to call that good. Unless somebody jumps on and tells me that they're not hearing it. Okay, so by saying that whether a company needs a sales funnel is dependent on the size of the company, I think demonstrates a lack of understanding of what a sales funnel fundamentally is. The issue is, in our current second quarter of the 21st century, this is 2025, the first year of the second quarter, people who weren't in marketing in the 20th century imagine a sales funnel driven by as modeled by a company who who shall remain nameless, but whose name talks about clicking on the pages of a sales funnel. The company name literally says, click on the funnel. And the implication is the landing page that you're on with a button that says buy now is the funnel. And I'm making the case that that is absolutely misunderstanding fundamentally the core principle or concept of a sales funnel. The concept of the sales funnel is the idea that the customer who eventually buys from you goes through a journey from I have no idea who you are, you're just one of the millions of people on this planet, to I know that you have the ability to solve a problem that I have, to I want that problem solved, and finally, I trust you to solve that problem for me. This concept was articulated by by mm, 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 um who invented? There we go. 1898. So not in the 20th century, in the 19th century. In 1898, Elias St. Elmo Lewis, Elias Lewis said, defined the concept of a buyer's journey. In 1924, so literally 101 years ago, William Townsend described that buyer journey in terms of a funnel. And so the point there is the concept of a sales funnel is 100 years old, 127 years old. The concept of the sales funnel predates the internet by a huge margin. So it cannot be that the definition of a sales funnel has to do with a landing page with a buy now button. It must be that the sales funnel is something other than the landing page. My point is not to underappreciate what a landing page is. My point is not to underappreciate what a funnel builder does. My point is to communicate the idea that the landing page or the funnel builder or the funnel that you click on is a set of tools to implement the strategy. They aren't the strategy. So if all you're doing is building the pages, you're not doing strategy. If your product is I build landing pages that look great, that according to your portfolio or your case studies convert well, that might very well be the case. But people who are buying a sales funnel from you, if all they know, thank you, Tony, for confirming that the audio is good. If all that your client, all that your prospect knows is that you build sales funnel, that you build landing pages, you're describing it as a sales funnel, but if they're bringing this other context into the conversation, then they're assuming you're going to help them do strategy, and you're not getting ready to do strategy. So one is just a matter of making sure that we're on the same sheet of music so that we communicate effectively. But more, even more than that is what I'm getting ready to show is why the actual sales strategy of the sales funnel matters. So what I'm going to do is see if I can share this screen. Yes, over the shoulder. Let's do that. And let's do this screen. Yeah, let's try that. Let's see how this works. All right, so sharing. Awesome. Okay, so the point of the sales funnel is that we're attracting attention, building interest, generating desire, and producing an action. So using AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action. The reason for a sales funnel as a strategy is it creates a continuity of the customer journey in your mind, the business owner. Or if you're someone who sells landing pages to business owners, a shared framework for talking with each other about what do we want the customer journey to look like. Because the reality is your customer journey doesn't go on the journey you want them to. The customer doesn't go on the journey you want. The customer is experiencing their life with all the chaos and randomness and whatever it is that is their life. And they are not buying your thing because they walked down a particular path. They're buying your thing because that solution solves a problem that they have. A sales funnel is a construct, a model, a framework that we use to describe the experience of the person from don't even know you to they're now your client, and they trust you to solve their problems on an ongoing basis. It can simply be, this is how we think about how our customer interacts with us. So I have this conversation in the Facebook world, in the digital marketing space fairly regularly. But this became really apparent to me on Thursday last week. On Thursday last week, I attended a networking event hosted by 3 local companies who specialize in helping business owners transition the ownership of that business to someone else so that they can retire. So one of the companies that was hosting the event, that was presenting, was literally talking about, this is how we prepare your business in the 6 to 36 months prior to when you want to sell, so that someone else can take over ownership and the business continues to function. The other company, the one that invited me, focuses on brokering the sales. So how the buyer does their due diligence of this business that's ready to be sold, and and determines whether it's a good purchase, and then negotiates the purchase agreement. Often for these kinds of businesses, it's very important that the person who wants to retire, the reason the window is 3 years, is very often part of the transition plan is that the former owner stays on, they step down as CEO, COO from the operating day-to-day operating of the business, but they slide into a founder kind of role where they continue to be available on site on a regular basis so that the new management team has continuity. That might be negotiated as part of the deal. And then this other company, and the one that had a really interesting, I had a really interesting conversation. They specialize in wealth management for high net worth individuals. And a business sale is often a one-time massive influx of cash into a person's life that is incredibly unique. And your typical garden variety financial planner probably certainly hasn't had significant experience. Your local wealth management financial advisor hasn't had significant experience with that unique situation. This company specializes in that unique situation. How do you transition that business to someone else? And then with this windfall of cash, how do you move forward with your life? How do you build the legacy? How do you implement that now to ensure the legacy you want? The reason that is significant is they said the two representatives of the company after the meeting, I'm having a conversation with a couple of guys who happen to be representatives of that wealth management company. And one of them is the customer experience director. That's literally, his title is literally cards here somewhere. His title is literally customer experience. And I said, well, there's all these smaller businesses. They use these landing pages and sales funnel is a series of landing pages that someone goes up to and they decide whether to buy. And the two of them look at each other and go, well, our website is really more of an online billboard just for a company, for people to confirm that we actually exist as a real company. To which I said, exactly. There are some businesses at the small end of the scale that's all they need a website for. And this is a business at the very wealthy end of this, very high end of the scale from a cash in cycle, cash under management perspective. I don't know how big their portfolio is, but it's huge. From a financial perspective, this is a big company, and yet their website isn't how people decide to buy from them. Their website is an online billboard where people confirm, yes, this is the company that I'm thinking of. The customer journey for that wealth management company is very much word of mouth. There is a saying, actually, I'll use that one later. So let's move on to this next thing. So here's why having a sales funnel matters. It's the way that you shape that random person who's in your target market but doesn't yet know you. It's how you shape the messaging at the right time in their journey so that they go from not aware of you to aware that you exist and that you have a solution to a problem that they have, which is why, but from your perspective, they're in your target audience. I'm going to use my own example because we're in the GHL Business Launch group. The GHL Business Launch has two components. It has this free training, this public-facing training that's available to anyone on the internet, anyone on Facebook. We also have a private community in Kollab off of Facebook where we do more in-depth trainings and where we can have conversations out of the public view so that we can help each other get better at being in business, get better at doing business. Very often, I have conversations where people are engaging in the public Facebook group, and the perception from my perception, the expectation that that person has is that because it's a public Facebook group, it exists for them to do whatever they want, and it doesn't. It would be like saying, so it's not the public town square in the middle of a town. It's a private business on the main street in that town. So here's the business, and there's a street. So selling tea. This is a tea shop. And here's a street, and here's the public square. And in the public square, there's this debate going on about whatever the issues of the day happen to be. And if you walk across the street and into the business, so this town is Facebook. If you walk across the street and into the business, into the tea shop, you don't start. If you're out on the street and you have a tea, you want to offer somebody a tea, sure, whatever. You walk into the business, and that's not your place to sell tea. That's the business's place to sell tea. You're just having a conversation. And I'm off topic. The point of the Facebook group for GHL Business Launch is the Facebook group is our top of funnel awareness. Our private group it's actually a middle of funnel, but it's the action. It's taking the action. The awareness and interest is generated in the public Facebook group. The action we want people to take is join the private group. In the private group, then we have a follow-on actions. Point is, having these different stages in the journey is how we frame the conversation with someone that says, I know that you're not ready to have this conversation because you just joined this part of the conversation, or you just started participating in this part of the conversation. So that last bullet, reducing randomness and increasing conversion. If I want to have a conversation with somebody about OmniHub, but this is the first time they've shown up in GHL Business Launch, I know that we are not yet on a trustworthy enough basis to begin that conversation. Okay. So I've used the abbreviation a couple times: attention, interest, desire, action. This framework is significantly older than the internet. It is a model that describes buying decisions. And there's a couple other models, but this is the one that I default to. And so I'm not going to like compare and contrast the values of different models. The stages to represent the human's perspective or the human's preparation or interest in moving to the next step. So it's unreasonable. In fact, in the BNI training system, Dr. Ivan Meisner talks about a concept called premature solicitation. It is unreasonable that the first time you walk up to somebody and shake their hand to expect them to buy from you. Now, does it happen occasionally? Sure. And at its most transactional churn and burn approach, when sales professionals say, well, it's a numbers game, that's kind of what they're saying is, if I burn through enough conversations, eventually I'll generate a sale. And if you have a mass market enough product that literally you can afford to burn all the bridges, maybe that's the right approach for you. Most of us need to build trust and rapport before someone buys from us, because we want that relationship to be a long-term relationship. Therefore, we need to tailor our messages and our channels to the specific purpose at the stage in the buying journey. And this then ties to our software, HighLevel, or the branded OmniHub, branded version of HighLevel OmniHub, because our landing pages can also be correlated to our pipeline stages. And our pipeline stages is how we track where someone is in this journey. And for some sales cycles, it's very short, and you don't need a lot of stages in your journey, in your pipeline, if your sales cycle is a short, fast sales cycle. But if you have a long conversational relationship building sales cycle, then having the ability to have a pipeline that you can use to graphically track somebody and see where they are in the stage is very helpful. All right, so the goal of the attention stage of the AIDA model is to capture attention, to gain curiosity, build I'm going to use build concern, or the idea that you're the person that can solve the problem. I often talk about a website as a centerpiece of a marketing system, but attention is how all the things you do to bring interest to that landing page, that website, that sales funnel. This is all also part of the sales funnel. All of the activity that you're doing is attracting attention to your online billboard. So whether it's this small little mom and pop shop that just has a website that's a billboard, or it's this wealth management company that's financially very, very well off, and they have a website, but it's just an online billboard. If you are using a landing page in the attention stage, what you're doing is you're putting out on social media, hey, come to my page to get my free thing, my lead magnet. Maybe it's a Tripwire product, depending on where in the journey your audience is. Or maybe it's a freemium. It's the thing that solves the problem, but there's a free level subscription. The thing that's different between a website and a landing page is a website is a choose your own adventure. There's a menu on it, and you can go anywhere on the company's website that you want to go. The landing page, by definition or by distinction, the funnel, the difference in HighLevel or OmniHub, the difference between a website and a funnel builder page is, yes, you can put a menu on a funnel page, but the normal format is to not have a menu on it. The normal format for a funnel page is a single call to action and a very clear headline. We want people who are on the pages of our funnel to take either a very specific action while they're on that page, or to leave. That should be the two options. On the website, on any page, they can do anything they want, including but other ways that you might attract attention, other than just posting links to your awareness level, video sales letter level landing page, you might be running webinars, you might be attending networking events, you might be just going to community activities. You might be, like I did last week, attending a networking event. Oh, great to see you, Vanessa. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's not the point here is that even if your primary thing you're pointing your audience to is your front level attention landing page, there's other activities that you're doing that's attracting attention to that landing page. And if your attending networking events is your primary marketing, your business card could in fact be your primary. Effectively, it's your funnel page, it's your landing page. There's enough information here for someone who you've captured attention because you've shaken a hand the first time. There's enough information here for someone to process in their brain whether they have interest. How do you create enough curiosity on this landing page, funnel page, business card that results in meaningful engagement? So the reason we have a business card scanner is so that when you do have that one face-to-face conversation, you can say, and I'm going to jump to the other ways to increase interest, is the one-to-one meetings. The sales funnel for people who do marketing via networking, via business networking, which is different than network marketing. But if you're doing business by marketing, the way that you move through the attention, interest, desire is when you meet someone, you have your elevator pitch just enough to spark interest without like vomiting detail on them. And then you say, hey, let's meet for a one-to-one. And you build desire, you gauge interest and build desire in the one-to-one coffee, sitting and having an actual conversation with a human being. When you're in that networking event, there's too many people talking. You can't hear what's going on. You can't focus on one person. All right. So that's the gain attention, build interest, generate meaningful engagement. Then the desire stage is building their confidence that yes, they can solve the problem that they have, and you are the person that can help them solve that problem. So this is where our video testimonials comes in. Again, we have a tool inside the HighLevel platform specifically for that. We have tools for providing marketing audits. So yes, usually the way you build desire is by having a landing page that shows customer testimonials, shows your reviews, gives your video testimonials. It might also be a link to a trial. Examples of what that page would be the actual offer page, or it might be a book a demonstration page. Yeah. And then we lead people to making it easy to move forward. Remove the friction, make it easy to say yes. Oh, I know I wanted to highlight back here. When someone does give you a referral, I talked about the high net worth wealth management company. And their sales funnel, yes, they have an online billboard type website, but their sales funnel is in-person referrals. When someone says, I want to refer you to so-and-so, this phrase, here's why you should connect, that becomes this crucial linkage of extending trust from extending the trust you have with me to you can also trust this other person. There's a saying in the business world, again from the 20th century, that business happens on the golf course. It's not that sales happens on the golf course. It's that someone has captured enough attention that they're interested in having a conversation with the sales rep or the leadership of the company. And they want to build enough rapport that they can decide whether they can trust. And so whether it's a golf course, whether it's a fishing trip, whether it's a whatever that event, at this higher net worth, higher volume, higher value, low volume, trust-based relationships, sales don't happen on a landing page. Sales happen when you've been on a golf course with somebody for 13, 14 holes, and you've seen them with a experience of frustration of having a shot not go the way they want it, and you see them when they do have shots go the way they want. How do they handle the frustration? Do they obsess, or do they solve the problem and move forward? If they have a success, do they gloat? Are they unhumble about it? This is how you then, but by 17, 18 holes, someone's ready to say, yes, I trust you with I see who you are. I'm willing to trust you with being a vendor for this project. This is how you make it easy to move forward with someone. The gain that you've gained interest, you've got and had enough desire built that you end up on the golf course together, or whatever that event is together. And then you build enough confidence that you trust this person to solve your problem. So yes, you might have a book an appointment, or you might have a checkout page that's on a website, but that's not the totality of what constitutes a sales funnel. What constitutes a sales funnel is the construct of moving someone from not aware to making a decision. All right. So how does a set of landing pages fit into this construct? I'm making a point that the totality of the sales funnel is not the series of landing pages. And I'm trying very hard to say there are plenty of successful businesses that yes, they might have a website, but the website isn't a primary component of the way their sales happens. Even in my model where I say the website is the centerpiece of the marketing system, if we use this golf course, a person's out there shaking hands, sharing their elevator pitch, handing across their business card. Hey, can we go shoot golf together? Can we go whatever? When the person is deciding whether to agree to go to that one-to-one meeting, that's when they go check the website and they say, yeah, I think this company does the things that I needed to do, that I need done. And then the follow-up is, okay, now that's that's a step in the customer journey, but it's not the central piece of the customer journey. And then we end up together in a conversation, drinking coffee or some other beverage, and decide whether we trust each other. When the product is a low human touch, it is something that can be bought off of a website, off of a landing page. That is where you can now have a sales funnel that's defined by the series of pages. And so you have an initial awareness page. So you have whatever's attracting attention to that awareness page, your SEO efforts or your social media efforts that are drawing your attention to your awareness. And then you have okay, so yes, I have this problem. And it may not be one, it might not be individual pages for each of this. It might in fact be just scrolling down. But you don't want someone to have to scroll very far to take an action to take the action that you want them to take. So the reason you might have this 4 pages is because you want them to take an action. They're micro commitments. Or you might have all 4 of these sequence steps that are on the screen. You might have them on one page, but you have up at the top the book the appointment, go to the checkout early so that they have that option early. Okay. So here's some ideas for if you are using a series of landing pages. The reason that I'm harping on the AIDA model, or if you want to use one of the other models, that's fine. But the reason I'm harping on understanding the strategic framework of the model you're working with is you need to realize that the person who ends up on your landing page got there somehow, and they don't, they have their own psychological needs. They have their own reasons for being there. Meeting someone in person, shaking their hand and saying, buy my thing, rarely works. Similarly, assuming just because someone's on the website that, did my live stream die? Similarly, assuming that someone is on the website and is ready to buy is, yeah, I think I'm okay. Assuming that someone is ready to buy just because they're on the website is a risk that might be valid or it might not, depending on, again, all of the things you're doing to attract attention to that website. So it could be that the first landing page someone comes to is your actual sales page because you're doing your sales somewhere else. You have a GHL Business Launch Facebook group with 4,700 members. This is where you're attracting attention, gauging interest. By the time someone gets to their landing page, the landing page isn't the sales script. This is the sales script. The landing page is simply the take action page. All the desire has already been generated. All right. So remove friction from each of the pages. Have a single action on that page. Make it obvious what the button is and what the button does, but understand where the person is in the journey when they get to that page. The difference between a landing page and a website, the difference between all this marketing activity and the riches are in the niches, but the fortune is in the follow-up, is marketing is creating attention, creating awareness in the marketplace. That's branding. Sales is about conversions. Thanks, Tony. Sales is how we convert that attention or awareness into a purchase decision. The point of your funnel, the point of optimizing the funnel is that when you know what stage you're targeting, the audience that's likely to be on that page, based on how you're attracting attention to that page, whether it's a searchable page that can be found by SEO, or whether it's a hidden landing page that's people only come to that page if they've either gone through a previous step in the funnel or they've gone through particular portions of your social media marketing. Now you can target the behavior that you expect based on the psychological profile of the person who's likely at that place. This is where you can do the scientific analysis of what is and what is not working. Okay, so attention attracts, interest educates, desire convinces, action converts. The sales funnel is a framework to understand the buyer journey. It's not the software that is called a funnel builder. And it's a limit. It's not even a limitation of the English language. It's a limitation of language to begin with. it's a limitation of communication to begin with, that we talk about the thing and the thing that it does with the same term. And I don't know that there's a way to get around it. The I don't know that I said the way to get I don't even know that it's a thing that needs to be gotten around. The issue is understanding who you are talking to is important. Not just in terms of are they in the target market? Do they know your and what is their name? But are they your target market? Do you know their name? And do you know where they likely are in the purchase process? Um, I'll use another negative example for me. So very often what happens with GHL Business Launch is in the Facebook group, I attract a lot of attention from people who do the kinds of things that most of the businesses in GHL Business Launch do. And they often approach me saying, I can do these lists of things for you, to which I honestly, it's really confusing to me. I have a public Facebook group with 4,700 people now, who at least a third of them do the same kinds of things that my bald guy marketing agency does. If I needed help with bald guy marketing agency, there's a pool of 4,700 people who I could ask for help. Of those, there's the Venn diagram isn't 100%. There's 670, I think it's 677 as of this morning. 677 people in the private Facebook group, private GHL Business Launch group in Kollab. A significant portion of those do the same kinds of things that Bald Guy Marketing does as a business. If I wanted somebody to help me do those kinds of things, I'm pretty sure I could find somebody who's in the training program, who's actually done the training, so they understand my approach and my philosophy, who would want to help me. And yet I have people who are in this pool, who are still in the attention level, who assume that just because that I'm buying from them, they haven't done anything to demonstrate that I should trust them. And yet they're already pitching me. They're doing premature solicitation. They haven't done a needs analysis conversation with me to determine whether I need what they're offering. And they are expecting me to take action when they just barely introduce themselves. The point of a sales funnel is, as you're attracting attention and starting to do some pre-qualifying kinds of conversation, you identify the people who have the problem that your solution can solve. And those are the people that you put an offer in front of saying, would you like my help solving that problem? This is what it would look like. Usually there's a dollar figure associated with that, what it would look like. If you walk up to somebody who you've just met and say, here's my offer, you put them in a place of, from my perspective, you put it in a place where they have to turn you down because you haven't given them a chance to build the know, like, and trust factors. And because you haven't given them the chance to build that, then they have no, from my perspective, they have no realistic option other than to say no. If instead you have you take time to build rapport and then you do needs analysis, now you have the desire, you've educated, developed interest. You can build the desire that convinces someone that you can solve a problem that they've demonstrated that they have. Now, when you put the offer on the table, you put the person in a place where they can make a decision that is actually solving that is actually reasonable. Okay. So I think at that point, I will simply just stop sharing my slide. I will talk to the camera again. Um, where's the stop slideshow? Yeah. Um, there we go. All right. So, in summary, the reason we have an AIDA framework or whichever framework you want to use is because the landing pages in a funnel sequence are a manifestation of the construct. They aren't the construct. They are a tool to implement the strategy. They aren't the strategy. I'm Keith Bashirs. I'm the bald guy. I help small businesses with marketing, theory, tactics, techniques, training, and technology. This is training on the theory of a marketing funnel, a sales funnel, and how the tactic of a series of landing pages fits into that strategy, that theory. Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.